Right. Hey guys, so I just wanted to briefly give my perspective on gaming distributions, and specifically, I want to look at the gaming distributions or the distributions that are claimed to be better for gaming on Linux. So the ones that I've heard the most about are Nobara Linux, and the other one that I've heard a lot about is Cachy, I'm not sure. Cachy Linux. I've heard a lot about these two distributions lately. I've seen a lot of videos on Cachy and Nobara and saying they're better for gaming, making some pretty bold claims. Okay, so I'm just going to give my 2 cents here, and I'm going to go ahead and let you know right off the bat that I do not think either of these distributions is better for gaming. Probably they could be even worse. I'm not sure about that necessarily, but also I don't think they're probably the distributions you want to be using overall unless you really like troubleshooting, okay? And I'll give my reasons for that. But first, I'm going to give you a little anecdote, okay? And this is about a time where I got excited, and this was for a new web browser called Thorium web browser, okay? Now, this web browser claims to be the fastest browser on earth, okay? And it has a cool little website with the cool music here that plays, and it's a project that's made by just one guy, okay? And guess what? When I installed Thorium browser the first time, and I went and I did a browser speed test, and you go to the browserbenchmark.org, okay, and I started the test. Thorium scored significantly higher than all the other browsers which I used. However, if you fast forward 6 months, I'm not using Thorium browser anymore, I'm using Firefox, and the reason for that is partially because Thorium browser is no longer faster than any of the other browsers. In fact, it's significantly slower than Firefox, okay? It's also slower than Brave, it's also slower than Chrome. Okay, so what is this? Why am I telling you this? It's because two reasons, okay? One is this is a project made by one person, okay? And two is it was actually faster. Now, it it wasn't just placebo, okay? The speedometer told the truth, I assume. The web browser is actually faster, but it's not faster anymore. And I think the reason why that is because this is a project made by one person who can't keep up with a project like Firefox. You know, for all I know, the guys at Firefox saw this guy's little project and they're like, well, how did they do that? Or how did he do that? And they just went and they just copy pasted his code into their shit. And now theirs is faster, okay? And it's a lot faster now, and there's absolutely no reason to be using Thorium as far as I'm aware, because that's basically its claim to fame is it's the fastest browser on earth, and you're getting the support of a one-man team compared to whatever Firefox has. Now, I'll admit, I like the idea of Thorium. I like the idea of using a browser that is made by a smaller group of people or something like that, that you don't have to worry about, you know, large group interests and that kind of stuff, like politics and that kind of stuff. However, I think modern browsers are a fairly complicated system, and I think that one person working on a browser is not going to live up to an entire large-scale team of people working on a browser, okay? Just over time, it's gonna. I mean, I was impressed that he made significant improvements on the browsers in the first place, but they haven't. It hasn't stayed that way. Okay, so this is gonna bring me back to Nobara and CachyOS. These are both made by, as far as I'm aware, small teams of people. Okay, Cachy has a very pretty nice little website. They did some web design here. Nobara not so much, but you know, I'm a sucker for minimalistic websites, so I kind of like this one. But so these both of the YouTubers for um, both of these distributions have claimed they make performance boosts. Now I have watched a YouTuber who I've seen who did benchmarks with these distributions, and the people who are claiming that they're faster did not do benchmarks. Sorry, my dog's barking outside. It's kind of annoying. So I've seen benchmarks on both of these operating systems, and I don't know that they're legit because they're just a YouTube video. But I don't know why the guy would lie. I can't remember his name right now, but I'll put his name in the video description or something like that. And he actually went through and he benchmarked these different operating systems, and Cachy actually came in slower than most other Arch-based operating systems, and Nobara came in about the same as like Fedora and stuff like that. So that doesn't say much for their performance boost. Now, I'm going to talk about both of these, and I've tried both of them, and to be honest, I didn't try them for very long, and you might think, well, that's not good. I want somebody who's given a long-term review. Well, I didn't feel like I could give a long-term review, and that's what I want to point out to you guys, is that these are small distributions made by a select group of people, and if you want something for gaming, you're going to need it to work on your system. And I'm going to be straight up with you, neither of these distributions worked very well on my system. In fact, Nobara caused my system to crash in such a way that I needed to reboot the operating system. And this was a video card related problem. I installed a second, hooked up a second monitor, and when I switched to the second monitor, I got some bizarre white screen on my laptop monitor, and then when I tried to reboot the computer, even when I rebooted, I had the same problem. It was just like I couldn't get out of it. I ended up reinstalling the operating system. I went back to what is that one called again? Oh, I went back to Pop! OS at that point. I'll talk about Pop! OS a little bit later. Okay, so just some things about Nobara. I did install with the NVIDIA drivers. I have an NVIDIA card. And also, something I noticed about Nobara is I have never in my life seen a distribution that used as much memory when it was just running idle as Nobara. Nobara used 2.5 gigs of memory when it was running idle. Now, if you have a big, modern, beefy computer with all the memory you could ever want, you're not going to care about this. But if you have 16 gigs or 8 gigs of memory and you're a gamer, you might have an actual issue because of the operating system. Now, I assume the system is aimed at people who have beefier computers, but I don't see there's any reason why a computer has to be using 2.5 gigs of memory idle. Okay, I don't see any reason for that. And I looked at the process. There's stuff going on that I could care less about, and I don't even know why it's going on. I managed to get that number down to 1.8 gigs or something by deactivating some of the the KDE stuff that was obviously unnecessary, but that stuff's all put on by default. I don't know, to me it just screams like anyone who has any concerns about memory use for gaming is not going to want to be using twice as much memory as the average computer. Okay, most computers are coming in at 1 gig or 1.2 gigs these days of memory at idle. 2.5 is a lot, okay? So, and it crashed my computer, and I needed to reinstall the operating system to get it to stop. It was very bad. I wish I'd caught it on camera, but I didn't. I was not thinking about this at the time. I was just thinking about trying to get my computer working again, of course. So I don't blame the people at Nobara for this. Glorious egg roll, whatever. I don't think they're trying to hurt me, but it's a small team, and I don't know what the problem was. I don't know if it's KDE that's causing the problem, but I don't think this, I don't necessarily, I've never had a problem like that before, and I don't necessarily think, because of that, I don't necessarily believe that Nobara is going to be the right choice for a lot of people, because it's just not polished enough. It's not ready to go, basically. And also, I tried rebooting it and selecting, instead of, because KDE usually has an X11 option and a Wayland option, I didn't see that on Nobara. I can't remember if I'm being correct about that, but I don't think Nobara had an option to boot in X11 mode, and I was trying that to fix the problem. And I don't think I even saw that option. So I was assuming the problem was something Wayland related, and Wayland is notorious for having issues with NVIDIA cards. I've heard a lot of people say they're fixed, but clearly not all of them. Okay, so, or at least not with KDE. So this brings me to CachyOS. Okay, so CachyOS has a lot of things they've changed. They have not only have they have a web browser that is entirely unique. They have a version of Proton that's entirely unique for Steam, and they also have changed the kernel of Linux. Now, this is one of those things where it brings me back to Thorium, where it's a one-man team changing a big project. Okay, a kernel is not a simple, easy thing to understand. So when I think of a small, like one or two people, I don't know how many people are working on CachyOS. I'm going to be honest with you, but a small group of people who, you know, trying to modify something that has been worked on for a long time, and you know, it just, I don't trust it. I don't trust it, and that's my instinct, is that I don't trust that these people are going to actually improve the kernel instead of make it worse. Okay, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I had a lot of weird bugs when I installed CachyOS. Okay, so I had, let's see, I've written them down here. Oh, first of all, when I came in here, first thing I did was I opened HTOP and I tried to see how much memory my computer was using at idle, which is about 1.2 gigs, which is not, you know, it's not 2.5. I'll give it that. HTOP wasn't entirely readable, and that was because the color scheme which they've chosen down here, like it's some places it's like dark green on darker green, and it was in my room that had light coming in from the sun. I actually couldn't even read the printout. Okay, like literally, like I tried covering, you know, I tried going like this, and I couldn't read it. Okay, so this is just a little thing. It's just a quibble, right? But they've made a unique distribution, and you can't even read some of the text unless you have like perfect lighting. And to me, that says like this was not very well thought out. Okay, this isn't like a reason not to use the operating system, but this just indicates to me that this, you know, they haven't thought everything out. Okay. Also, when I started Alacrity, which was the default program that was installed on the computer, so it gives you all these options for which window manager, or it installs with Calamares and gives you all these options for the window manager, and it gives you what, I'm just going to cut to the chase. The Alacrity opened and it had a little warning like for something wrong at it was a problem with the configuration right from the get-go, and this was one of their pre-made window manager setups. Okay, and it had a little warning, so it's not also, it's like maybe it's not actually a problem, but it indicates that they haven't really polished their product. Okay, also when I logged out of i3 or DWM X11 programs, X11 window managers, this didn't happen with a Wayland window manager, but with X11 window managers, I actually crashed every time I tried to log out to the login screen. My computer would crash, and this was just with the default settings. So that were, you know, so to me, all this is just like this product isn't polished. You know, the Calamares lets you install Sway. It doesn't tell you that Sway isn't supported by NVIDIA, and this is, you know, and if you just install Sway right off, it won't even launch. Okay, and it doesn't, I mean, it's just not a polished product. Okay, and eventually I had a bug with Rofi. If you don't know Rofi or Rofi, I don't know how it's pronounced, but if you don't know what Rofi is, it's just this program that opens your programs here. You know, it's pretty straightforward. It's very useful, and I had a bug with it that didn't work after my computer. If my computer went idle and then I came back to it, my Rofi was broken. And you know, I just said, after all these weird little issues, I was just like, you know, I don't want to use this operating system, and it's not polished enough. And uh, also, I tried gaming on it briefly, and it ran perfectly fine. But I didn't play. I played Halo 3. It's not like I get 240 FPS on Halo 3, so I don't really know. Like I wasn't sure how good it was for gaming, but from I'll link in the description. You know, the benchmarks that I've seen don't look good. But here's what I want to say about these benchmarks: is just like Thorium browser, which was the fastest browser on Earth. In fact, CachyOS might have been at one point, or might be, or might for a moment be the fastest kernel and the fastest operating system on Earth. But because it's a small team working on it, it doesn't have the force behind it. Something like, you know, uh, Arch Linux or whatever has behind it. It's probably not going to stay that way, and that's just my perspective. It's probably not going to stay that way. And currently, the operating system is not a finished product, and this isn't like really scream to me about people I want to be modifying. People who can't select good colors on who modify the colors and then select bad colors that you can't actually read on a terminal. Doesn't scream to me the people I really want to be modifying my uh, kernel. Kernels are complicated and they're very technical, and I don't trust these guys to modify my kernel. Also, there's a huge suite of like gaming stuff that you can get. Gaming on CachyOS, like a huge bunch of programs you can get, and advice for how to get everything working correctly. And frankly, it's complicated, and well, it's not that complicated. It's pretty easy, but it's just like I don't think if it gives any performance, I'd be honestly. They have a unique version of Proton. It works fine for me, but I don't think this. If this gives any performance boost at all, and it's not just placebo. And here's what I'm thinking: a lot of these guys who say this thing is really great, I think they're on a placebo, right? Like there's people who believe all kinds of stuff in the world, and believing that an operating system that modifies a kernel or a distribution that modifies a kernel is going to be better is not the craziest thing. Even if it's not better, it's not the craziest thing I've ever heard of. Somebody believing that, even when it's not true. And I think that the likelihood of this remaining true, even if it is true, because the team is small, is not very high. Okay, so also Glorious Eggroll, who makes Nobara, he has a unique version of Proton too, which frankly, one game I played, Nobara or Glorious Eggroll's version of Proton fixed a problem with a game that I had, and I was very happy and impressed with that. In another game I had, I tried Glorious Eggroll's version, and it screwed up my game, and I had to reinstall a 30 gigabyte game because of something that I wouldn't have expected this to even be able to happen, but something Glorious Eggroll's version did screwed up it's Halo 3. It screwed up Halo 3, and I had to reinstall it, and I'm just like, well, that's not much fun, right? So it's not that these people aren't trying to do something good. It's just that I don't think they have the resources. Like these are serious, complicated, not easy things to solve, like graphics drivers and stuff like that, and all kernels, distributions. It's not an easy thing to do, and a few people working on it, like it might make a difference for a minute, but maybe it won't be able to keep up. They won't be able to keep up with the. In my opinion, I don't think even if they accomplish something, they won't be able to keep up with the competition. Okay, so that's just my 2 cents. Both of these distributions for me came in very buggy. I'm just going to mention Pop! OS briefly. Pop! OS I tried, and this is a real instead of Arch, right? Pop! OS is a very user-friendly, like based on Ubuntu. It's just like vanilla sort of stuff, right? And it has the latest version. It has the 5.55 version of the NVIDIA drivers, and everything worked perfect out of the box. Perfect. My FPS was good. Everything was good, and it's not as it's if you want a distribution like Arch sometimes has bugs and stuff like that because it stays so it's so bleeding edge sort of it always has the latest packages, so it's obviously sometimes those packages have bugs. Pop! OS does not stay as bleeding edge, but it had the latest version of NVIDIA's drivers, and frankly, it works completely fine for gaming. And if you want a simple solution that's just like, I just want to game on my computer. I don't want to be a Linux nerd, and I like, I don't want to get nerd out and get all obsessed with, my distribution like Arch Linux might cause. I think Pop! OS is a great option. I'm going to leave you that. I hope you got something out of this video. Thanks.